Insight Studios, where we bring insight from LA. My name is Debbie Sheridan, and I'm going to be your host for today. Go ahead and subscribe and like this channel below. We'd certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's get started. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with one of my dearest personal friends, who happens to also be an industry powerhouse. She has been casting in Los Angeles for almost 3 decades. Her primary focus is comedy casting, and I would be surprised if you haven't seen many of the titles she has put her stamp on, including the feature film Best in Show. She was casting director for so many TV shows, including Gilmore Girls, King of the Hill, Better Off Ted, Futurama, The Real O'Neills, AP Bio, Man-Seeking Woman, and Santa Clarita Diet. Guys, we are so lucky today because this is a very rare sighting. She doesn't grant too many interviews, so listen close, take some notes. We are very lucky for all of the insight she's going to share with us today, and you won't find it anywhere else. So I can promise you that you're going to have a good time today. Welcome, and thank you for being here today, Jill Anthony Thomas.
It is my pleasure to talk to you, Debbie Sheridan.
Thank you. All right, so almost 30 years, right? 29 years of casting?
Yes, August this year will begin my 30th year in casting.
That is incredible. And so you've been doing mostly TV comedy, right? That's your like niche market.
That is my niche and my preferred job. I love laughing every day, and in casting comedy, so many people come in and 10 people can do a joke one way, but then someone comes in and reinvents where you thought the comedy was in that scene, and it's really fun.
And is that what you set out to do? Is that particular type of casting?
I set out to do casting, and of course, probably when I was 21 years old, I thought, oh, movies, but I fell into TV. It wasn't always comedy. When I started out, I worked in a casting office that primarily did TV dramas. Then I worked with a casting director that did primarily movies of the week, like Lifetime movie type things. Then I worked with someone where we did a lot of sketch comedy and animation. And once those two areas took off, then it just became comedy. My partner and I cast Mad TV. And then it was all of a sudden, because we knew, we saw thousands of people for that all over the country. This was back in the day where we would fly to Chicago and fly to New York and go see shows.
Wow.
Where the studio or network would pay for you to go there and do like 3 days of casting. And I was out every night at the comedy clubs or the sketch clubs, Groundlings, Improv Olympic, like everything back then. And so I got a really good knowledge of the comedy talent. And after Mad TV, yeah, everybody thought, oh, they know the comedians, so let's go with them. So
okay, so you're an independent casting director, right? You don't work for, you work for yourself. So you could be hired by any. Okay, so how does that work exactly?
There's a couple different ways that I get hired on something. If I have a relationship with a producer and they request me. Otherwise, the studio casting executives, like at Universal or ABC Studios or Paramount, the studio casting executive reaches out to me and says, are you available? We have this show. And so they set up meetings on pilots or new series, and that's where that work comes through. Well, from January till March, when things shut down, I was working on 2 comedy pilots and a Hulu teen comedy feature film.
When does pilot season run?
Well, I mean, the traditional pilot season is January through April, but I mean, I was casting a pilot for Netflix last September, October, November. It's pretty much year round now.
So when people say they're going to go out to LA for pilot season, do you find that there are a lot of people that are from out of town during those months, like January to April?
Not as much anymore with the prevalence of taped auditions or Skype, Zoom. There's many more ways to see talent now virtually. I do honestly believe it's always better in the room if you can be there. The charisma, the connection, it's just valuable. But I have cast people that I never met at all in person. I only saw on tape. or we did a video call with them after we liked their tape. So, but if you're gonna come out to LA for pilot season, I recommend February and early March. January is too soon because January is still chasing after the celebrity names and, you know, which star can we get for this? And then in February, people get more open to seeing unknowns. So I think February is the best time to come.
So I just want to touch on something that you just brought up about taping, and because now with COVID-19, how do you see it going forward? I mean, do you think that it'll be pretty much all tapes for a while?
I think until there's a vaccine or herd immunity, I think that all casting will be on tape or in a Zoom room, Skype. So we've been doing our research in my office on how if we had to do a chemistry read, we could have two people reading together. And we've done a lot of different mock-ups with virtual auditioning. So, but I don't think I'll be seeing people in a room for a while, which makes me very sad.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun of it, right? Is to be able to.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody on tape, is there something that you look for specifically, or can you think of things that you have seen that maybe stood out that got your attention more than somebody else's?
Yes. If you can have good lighting and a solid backdrop so that the background like this is not distracting.
No, the background.
So that it's just you on screen in front of a blue backdrop or a gray backdrop, or that tends to usually work the best. Also, I can't stress enough when you are auditioning on tape to get a good reader with you, because bad readers have really screwed up people's auditions that could have been so much better. And when there's a bad reader or someone with an odd voice reading with the actor, or someone with an odd delivery reading with the actor, producers tend to watch the tape and focus more on the reader than the person reading. So get someone who is competent and good, but isn't taking any of the focus away from what you're doing on screen.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
good advice. I never thought about like the reader ruining an audition.
It makes a big difference. I have really liked an actor and called them back and said, please get a different reader.
Well, that's good. You gave him a second chance.
Well, yeah, because I knew if I sent the first one that they sent with the person with the weird voice, that the producers would focus on that and not the reader. And
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay. So let's assume everybody has everything set up right. They have the right lighting and the right reader. Mm-hmm. Do they also, is it helpful for them to have props, or to even just set up in a location that looks like it could be the background of the scene?
Not really.
No.
And I think sometimes props can feel gimmicky or distracting. Like, I mean, if you're in an audition and there's someone talking on a phone and you want to pull your phone up, that's fine. But like, I mean, I've seen it done well where someone pulled out a lipstick and was like putting it on because they were looking in a mirror in the scene, and that worked. But generally, costumes, props, that can just feel gimmicky.
So when it comes to the acting in a self-tape, obviously you want a good, strong actor, but whenever somebody makes a choice that kind of maybe goes against the grain or isn't what most people are choosing, does that tend to stand out to you as like, oh, they have some good ideas, I want to see more of this? Or is it like, they didn't get it?
It's both, because there's cases where someone has done something so different than the way I had envisioned it, or 90% of the people performed it, or the producers had in mind, but it was genius and hilarious and made us all think, well, maybe we should do this. And then I've had people do it where it doesn't work. So okay. I can't really tell you there's a right or a wrong there.
Yeah.
I say do whatever works best for you. It's always good to make a scene your own without taking too many liberties. Like, I've seen people add tons of improv in a scene, and with comedy, because it's so specifically written with timing and jokes. And right. So I think you can take a few more liberties with drama, but when it comes to comedy casting, adding jokes, not not a great idea, because then the writers get offended, like, oh, you didn't think my joke was funny enough, you had to change it. Adding like a little button at the end of a scene is usually fine, or a word here or there, something to make it your own. But I've seen people really shoot themselves in the foot with lots of improv,
Right.
or changing lines to make them work for them. So when I say make it your own, I'm saying make it your own, but within the context of the actual material.
I understand. Okay, great. Okay. I want to just get back to like the casting process, because I don't know if everybody just really understands, you know, how it works and sort of what your job is. So if you could just kind of talk us through that. So the production company hires you, or the studio hires you. What are the first stages of sort of the casting process?
For instance, it's different in a pilot or like an episode of television. But for like a pilot in a movie, generally I talk to the producers, ask them if they have any prototypes. But going into that, I have already made a list of all of my ideas. And I'll do like a big list, you know, like 30 ideas for each role, maybe more, maybe 50. And then once I start talking to the producers and seeing what they like, then I'll, you know, pare that list down. But the initial step is I make a list of what I think when I read the script. Then I talk to producers and we collaborate. And if there's a prototype, a lot of times there's not a prototype. It's just, I like a woman who's strong and funny, and you know, and then we release the breakdown. I go through all the submissions, all of them. I mean, like 20,000 of them for a pilot.
Wow.
More. Probably like 6,000 submissions come in per role on a pilot, per series regular role. It takes a few days, but I make it through all of them. And then we start setting up sessions. Generally, I start with a couple sessions with producers and director where I bring in talent I know straight in for them that I thought would be great, so that I can see what they're responding to, what's working in the room. And then I'll jump into doing everyday pre-screens. A typical day for a pilot for me is I come in, I go through the 300 emails, I have probably 6 hours of auditions, then I watch about 2.5 hours of self-tapes. It's a, you know, those are long days.
So what is a pre-screen exactly?
A pre-screen is an audition with just the casting director and the actor.
Okay.
It's usually reserved for people that I don't know, new faces, or people I'm not sure if they're right for the part, so I want to see what they do with it before I would bring them in for the producer. People I think I might need to work with a little extra, because when you come in front of the producer and director, it's not a work session. It's
Right.
not like, let's try it 3 different ways. You come in and you do what you've got, and sometimes they'll give notes and sometimes they won't. And so that's your one shot. In a pre-screen, there's more freedom to play around, to try different things. So that's what my pre-screens are for.
And in those pre-screens, do you read with the actors yourself?
Yeah. Different casting directors like it different ways. I prefer to read with the actor. I generally have it pretty memorized so that I can, you know, maintain eye contact and focus. I'm not looking down at the page like this and reading with the actor. We have a camera running in the pre-screen, so I can always go back and look at the audition again afterwards if there's something I want to see. But I find it valuable to read with the actor because I can be engaged with them, and it just, for me, works better that way.
Do all of the talent that you bring in have representation? They're all coming in through an agent?
For the most part, you know, sometimes I bring in someone I saw at a show at Upright Citizens Brigade, or someone I saw on a show at the Groundlings and I track them down, or someone I had in a workshop or a showcase, or there are people that I have to contact directly. But for them, I would say 98% are represented.
Let's say somebody's in Atlanta, or where they might have an agent in Atlanta. Did those agents reach out to LA casting directors?
They do during pilot season, yes. They always submit on the breakdown, and I go through and I have a category of out-of-town talent, and I flag the ones that I'm interested in, and then I send an invitation to that agent. Can you have these clients put themselves on tape and send to me? That's the majority of the 2 hours a night of self-tapes that I go through during pilot season are people in Atlanta, Washington, Oregon. You know, it's the people who live out of town who are sending in tapes.
So you've seen many, many actors in your 29 years of casting, and you mentioned that you bring in people that you've thought of that might be good for the role. So when you've seen potentially tens of thousands of people, what is it that makes you say, oh, what makes that light go off in your mind about that person that might be right for it? Like, how do you remember somebody from all the people? Like you go 6 hours a day of casting and you see people coming in, and then you're watching all these videos, and then there's a role that comes up. What makes that light go off for that one person? Like, what made them stand out that made you think about them over all of the other people you've seen over the years?
Well, there will probably be more than one person that the light goes off and I think of. I'll usually think of a few. This could be so-and-so, or so-and-so would do it this way. I mean, and that is a skill of a casting director that I don't think you can train, that memory. I've just always had it. It's the way my mind works. I remember. I'll watch a show. People will call me up and say, who was the cop on that show? And I know exactly who they're talking about.
Wow.
Years of training.
Right. Let's just say I'm an actor and I don't have an agent, but I'm really talented and I want to get in front of you. So let me just ask you, so do things like, I know people send in postcards and people send in headshots. Do you find do you ever even look at them, honestly? Do they have any influence whatsoever on you?
I look at every single postcard that comes in.
Really?
We even have a game during pilot season, which we call Lucky Postcard Day. And we pull out someone that in the postcards that we've never met before, never seen before. Like we'll be casting a barista role or something like that. And we'll go through and go, oh, this girl looks like she could be a barista and we don't know her. Let's bring her in. So we do the Lucky Postcard game. I do look at every single postcard. I'll be honest, it's usually just great. And then, like, I don't keep them, I throw them away, but I do look at them.
Okay, so I could send in a postcard and maybe get into your lucky postcard drawing and get an audition. All right, America, did you hear that? Send Jill Anthony Thomas all your postcards. You're welcome.
Thank you. The problem is that my office moves with every single project that I do. So your postcard may or may not actually make it to the right address. But there are other ways that unknown talent gets in to see me. Recommendations from friends, or I'll see them in a show, or I go to a lot of the diversity showcases. A lot of those people are unrepresented, and I keep their headshots, and I have a file of unrepresented talent when I'm going through and looking.
Do you still go to a lot of those like groundling shows and comedy shows and stand up and all that?
I go to some. I wouldn't say a lot. Okay. Because there's so many links I can watch now where an agent can say, hey, my client did a show, and they just send it to me. So I don't actually have to go in person as much as I used to, but I still do go in person to UCB and Groundlings and all of the ABC, NBC, CBS showcases. But a lot of times it's viewing links. And I see at in the spring, all the graduating classes from the acting schools do showcases, and I go to those.
Oh, okay.
Yale, Juilliard, I'll go to those. And this year they all did it on links, so I have video links to watch.
And what is the CBS, NBC showcases? What are those exactly?
Those are diversity showcases where they scour the nation for diverse talent. And they mean diversity in many ways. Over 40 is diverse, LGBTQ, Black, Indigenous people of color. So it's all diversity in many fashions. And they have people who spend their year working on that, putting together the diversity showcase. I'm not sure who you would contact if you were interested in that, but you could just Google ABC Diversity Showcase and it will probably give you information on how to submit.
Oh, that's great. Great. Okay, great.
It's thousands of people and about 20 actually make it into it. So
Okay. So someone gets into the room with you, right?
the room where it happens, the room where it happens.
I love it. What would you say are the most common mistakes that people make once they actually get the opportunity to finally read for you, and then they blow it because why?
They blow it because they're not well prepared. You don't have to be memorized, but you need to be pretty close to off book to really nail an audition, I feel like. If they're not familiar with the project at all, because comedy has many different tones, something could be more broad, or, you know, like some of the CBS comedies are a very different tone than like the dark, edgy Netflix comedies. So I think it's very important to try to find out a little bit about the show that you're going into audition for, so you know tonally how to play it. Because I've had people come in for like a dark, edgy single cam comedy and play it like it was a big, broad, multicam sitcom.
I see.
So that's always important. Lacking confidence, you know, another thing that is not great in auditions is when people make excuses prior to their reading. I just got this. I didn't have a lot of time with this. I don't really know anything about this show. People come in and actually say those things before their audition. So now I'm going into their audition thinking negative thoughts before they even open their mouth. Mm-hmm. I'm not expecting them to be good. Or I don't go into my job saying, oh gosh, I just really didn't prepare for work today. So your audition, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be kind of paying half attention to you when you do it. That's what it's like when an actor comes in and says, oh, I just got this. Don't make excuses. Come in, do your best. It's okay at the end to say, would you like to see anything different? But simply that, not, don't expand on that, because people will be like, do you want to see something different? Because in the second part of the scene, I really feel like I didn't get that joke right there. And then they spiral. And they don't feel confident. They feel all over the place. And I have seen actors come in and like lose the job in the room because they've gotten very needy or insecure when the producers were happy with the performance they gave. Mm-hmm. And then they think on set, what's this person going to be like? Are they going to need a lot of hand holding? So confidence, come in, do your best. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to see? Okay, great. Nice to meet you. You know, like too much chit chat before and after. A lot of actors feel like, oh, I need to make a connection. Your connection is doing a great job with the scene. That is what's going to impress a casting director the most, not chit chat.
Has anybody, can you remember a time where you took an actor to producers and the producers loved them from a tape they'd seen, you loved them, they were the role, and they got in the room, and just because of something that had nothing to do with their acting, they lost the job?
Yes, that's happened a lot of times.
Really?
A lot of times. Yeah, it has happened a lot of times.
Okay.
Like 3% when I say many, but you know, it has happened where actors come in and producers liked what they saw on tape and they totally changed their read. It has happened where producers liked what they saw on tape and then the actor comes in and is adding all this improv. It's happened where the person comes in, does a great read, but then acts really neurotic afterwards. And the producer has literally said to me, well, I liked Joe and John equally, but John seems like he'd be so much easier on set. Joe seems so neurotic. I feel like we'd be holding his hand doing 10 takes. So
wow,
the way you act in the room does make a big difference. Mm-hmm. When things unravel, I often find that actors are their own worst enemy. They're in their head, they're overthinking it, they're self-judging, and you can never give the best performance. You have to be a little fearless. You have to just, this is my take on it, and here's what I'm going to do, and I hope you like it. And if you don't, maybe you'll think of me for something else. Because right. I remember people. I'll have people come in and just not be great for something that I'm reading, but then 2 weeks later I'll get a role and I'll think, oh, that guy Andy would be great for this. I mean, he was nothing right for that part, but he would be, you know, so if you come in and do a great job and don't get it,
right,
we still remember you.
Right. That's good. That's good for people to know, so that they don't have to walk away feeling bad that they didn't book something. They can walk away feeling good that they gave a great audition, and that's really all they can do. Everything else is out of their hands.
It really is, because there can be 10 people who would play the hell out of a role, and it is a puzzle. So, well, this girl goes better with this guy, or this person's comedy timing and energy would match up better with this person, or this girl looks too much like our lead already. You know, so you can come in and be so great and not get the part. And it's hard on the other side of my desk, because you really don't, the only thing you can control is your performance, your attitude. You can't control whether or not you're going to get that part.
Right. How does one book a part ultimately?
Here's how it comes together. The producers and director and casting make a decision in the room who's our first choice, and we usually have a backup. We send our video of our first choice to the studio. The studio has to approve it. Then they send it to the network, and the network has to approve it. So sometimes I'll get a role kickback and they'll say, who was your second choice? Or do you have any other choices? Or this guy just did a big guest star on the show that airs right after you. So we like him, but we'd rather see someone we haven't just seen in that time slot. So yeah, but most of the time, producers and casting and the director, most of the time we get our choice.
I want to just get back to like the casting process, because I don't know if everybody just really understands, you know, how it works and sort of what your job is. So if you could just kind of talk us through that.
Okay, so the process for casting on a pilot is pre-screens. Some people go straight to producer sessions. If I like someone from a pre-screen, I bring them into a producer session. We do several weeks of those and kind of put together our favorites in the mix. We keep a running list of who's in the mix. And then generally there'll be a final callback where we bring in our 6 or 7 favorite people for each role. Sometimes we'll mix and match and we'll see, let's read this person with this person. It's super helpful when you can do that. Then we usually move on to picking our top 3 or 4 for the role, putting test deals in place and shooting screen tests. Once we shoot those screen tests, we show them to the studio. The studio weighs in. Generally, we cut it down to 1 or 2 favorites that we're going to show the network. And then we show those choices to the network. Hopefully everyone has the same first choice and the person gets the job. So that's the process for a pilot. For a role on like weekly episodic, the process, a lot of times we don't have time for a lot of pre-screens because we get those scripts and we have like 2 days to cast them.
Wow.
So sometimes some roles we just call our favorite agents or call the agents we think might have good people for those roles and say, who's your favorite ideas? We don't have a lot of time. And we bring those people straight in for the producer. Other times we have more time to do pre-screens. So I'll do pre-screens and the people I like, give a call back for producer session, send the tape to studio. Hey, this is who we want to hire. Do you approve? They say yes. Then they send it to network. This is who casting wants to hire. Do you approve? They say yes. And the role is cast. So there are several hoops to jump through to get a part. It's not as easy as, oh, the producers loved me. I went in for producers and I booked it an hour later. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen and a lot of people to weigh in on your choice. So
you mentioned a screen test.
Mm-hmm.
What is that exactly?
That's basically we go into a screen test room at Universal or ABC Studios or whoever the studio for the pilot is. And there's usually a professional camera operator, good lighting, microphones, and the producer and the director are there. And we take the audition scenes and we put them on tape. We can do as many takes as we like until we get the one we think is great. And then you edit and send to the studio for approval. In the old days, we used to go in person, and then the one shot is pretty much all you got. So screen test is a nice way to ensure you get to show the studio and network the best performance, because people can get nerves and not do as well. So with the screen test, we can control it. We can do 5 takes and pick the best one. So
yeah, and then you have the lighting and
the lighting and the
mood,
and the director there saying, wait, okay, let's tweak this. Also, you can do mix and match sessions at those screen tests where, like I said earlier, you bring in, if it's a romantic comedy especially, you want to have the guy and the girl reading together so you can see if there's any chemistry.
Right. Great. And so, okay, so then somebody gets hired,
Mhm.
and then typically there's like a table read, right? They hire the cast,
Yeah.
you do a table read, everybody sort of meets each other sort of for the first time, right? And you're usually at those table reads,
I'm
right?
always at table reads. And
And
I never consider a role cast until after the table read because there have been times where people get replaced after the table read.
uh-huh. Even after all of the approval,
All the
all of the
approvals.
steps.
All the approvals.
And what would that what would be an example of a reason somebody would lose a job after a table read?
They just didn't have chemistry with the rest of the cast. They felt flat. Tonally, their comedy didn't seem like what everyone else was doing. They weren't funny enough. Lots of reasons.
Wow.
And I've had people get to a couple days into shooting and get replaced.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't happen that much. It's not that frequent of a thing, but it does happen.
so nothing is really guaranteed until you're deep into the first season.
I never feel good until after shooting has wrapped. I'm on call every night just in case.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
yeah.
Wow. Can you tell the difference when someone has trained professionally versus someone who maybe just has really good instincts?
There's a difference in people who've trained professionally, know the lingo, know how to take direction, know how to incorporate notes. Um, I think that's what training professionally is very helpful with. You can tell when there's people who are just really talented but have had no training and a director gives them a note and they just kind of look back like they're not sure how to incorporate that.
Oh,
So I think training's good for that.
yeah. Just curious if it's something on your end that you're able to spot, or um what are your pet peeves? Like, do you have some pet peeves that actors do that you wish you could let the world know so they could all just stop?
Well, these aren't all mine. These are from talking with my casting friends and just giving you, so these aren't just straight up me
Okay.
because, but one of them that is a big one over in a lot of offices is do not come in wearing scent. A lot of perfume, a lot of cologne, a heavy smelling lotion, because that stays in the room long after you are gone. And a lot of people have, they'll be sneezing in the room, like I'll be trying to read and my eyes are watering. So, and you'd be surprised, people come in, you can smell them from 15 feet away when they're coming down the hall. So yeah, please don't wear a lot of fragrance. Um, People trying to be, too familiar with the casting director physically. Like, I'm a handshaker. I probably won't be anymore, but a lot of casting offices would have signs up that say we don't shake hands. So I think just moving forward in life now, we're going to have to assume no one's shaking hands, no one's touching, no one's hugging. Other pet peeves. I think I touched on it before where I said the neediness of asking, like, can I do that again? Oh, I don't think I did a very good job. Like making excuses prior to your audition or at the end of your audition.
Hmm.
um, or asking questions at the end, like when are the callbacks? Like
Oh,
trying to gauge whether or not I'm interested in what they did. When are the callbacks, or what's the next step? Or, you know what, have your agent call and ask that after you leave the room if you're curious. But it always feels, a casting director always feels sort of put on the spot, like you're trying to gauge what we really thought of you. And to be honest, sometimes we'll love an audition, but we won't know if we're going to give you a callback until we've had a day or 2 days of auditions and we look and say, well, I want to give different types. I want to give some different flavors. Okay, this guy was my favorite of this type. This guy was my favorite of this. So I don't always know when you leave the room if you're going to get a callback or not. Sometimes I do, but asking always puts us on the spot and makes us uncomfortable.
right.
Also, another pet peeve, it's absolutely, like, I always start an audition by saying, hey, do you have any questions? And by that, I mean, like, simple question. I'm not going to dissect the scenes with you or give you the every motivation in every scene. A question or two is fine, but you need to do your research, read the script, know about the show before you walk in the room, because I'm not there to, make it a work session. So too many questions is always off-putting.
So the type of question they would ask would be something like,
is this like tonally, do they want big or more real, more single cammy kind of tone? Questions like that are fine.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised at, like, I don't know if it's people trying to stand out, but they'll ask like, okay, then they'll have a follow-up question on how I answered it. And then they'll ask 5 more questions. And it just gets like, this isn't I'm not your coach. This isn't an acting class.
Yeah. Where you just want to say, you know what, just show me what you brought. We'll go from there.
I've done that.
Let's just do the audition. Let's go. We'll go from there.
Here's something important that I think every actor should know. The casting director is your ally. We want you to do a great job. We want the next person who walks in the room to be the person who gets the part. We're there for you. So come in knowing that. Maybe that will make you feel a little more comfortable walking in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people walk in a lot of times just so nervous, and, especially like now in the initial audition, it's just one person. It's just you generally, right? But I'll sometimes have auditions with a whole crew of people. You know what I mean? And it's overwhelming to kind of walk in when there's more than 1 or 2 people. It can be intimidating.
Oh, some of my producer sessions, there's 10 people in the room. I had, on the pilot that I just did, I had 6 executive producers. They were there, the director was there, I was there, my casting associate, there were 10 of us.
Right.
In the casting session. And I get that that is intimidating, but I promise you, those producers, that director, that casting director, we want you to be the answer when you walk in the room.
Right.
We're rooting for you, not against you. So know that going in, be confident, make strong choices, and that's really all that you can do. The rest, there's so many factors that go into making the decision who's going to book it. So the rest is out of your control.
And have fun.
Have fun.
Right? Because that comes through.
It definitely comes through.
What is your favorite thing about casting?
My favorite thing about casting is, well, changing people's lives, like giving someone that first job or that big job that changes their life. That's my favorite part of the job. Fostering talent is my favorite part of the job.
That is all incredible advice. It's good information. I think people are going to take away something today that they didn't already know, or be able to go into a casting session and look at it in a different way. Also come in not making those mistakes that you see so often, or being annoying. Hopefully they take that away too. But yeah, I appreciate so much for you to take the time with me today and to go over all of this information. It's invaluable, and you're a great friend and a beautiful person and a brilliant casting director. And we're very lucky to have you with us today. So thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Debbie.
All right. See you next time.